The year was 2342. Everything seemed peaceful. Humanity had been a member of the Galactic Council for 10 long years. It was a time of great calm and new opportunities in space. The Council, made up of many older and powerful species, felt like a wise parent guiding younger worlds. Earth's diplomatic vessel, the Nova, sat peacefully in orbit around Xylos Prime, the Council's central hub. Chloe was a very smart data analyst. She was quiet and did not seek attention, but her brain worked faster than any machine. She worked on the Nova, which was Earth's main ship for talking with other planets. Her job today was simple: clean up old computer files, mainly old treaties and trade agreements from the first 5 years of membership. It was boring work, full of legal words and endless numbers. She was deep into the archive servers, using complex filtering programs, when she saw something strange. A small block of data, just a few kilobytes, was hidden inside a huge 10-year-old resource treaty file. It was not meant to be read by anyone outside the highest council level. It was labeled simply, New Species Integration Protocol, Phase 1. The file was guarded by layers of encryption that made no sense. It was not a standard lock. It was more like a puzzle designed to look like a simple error and be ignored. But Chloe was good at finding things that were not supposed to be found. She spent the next 2 hours staring at the screen, running every known human and basic council decryption tool. Nothing worked. She knew she couldn't handle this alone. The file felt important, dangerously important. She sent a coded message to Ethan, the Nova's chief security officer. Ethan was a solid, quiet man who had seen too much. He had a natural suspicion of anyone wearing too many medals or speaking too smoothly, especially alien diplomats. "Come to my station," her message read. "Need your eyes on a weird old lock. Bring the emergency access key." Ethan arrived 5 minutes later, his face calm but his eyes sharp. He checked the corridor for sensors and then stepped inside Chloe's small data lab. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. Chloe pointed to the flickering, protected data block. It's sitting inside a harmless-looking energy agreement, but the lock is paranoid. It's not about hiding trade secrets. It's about hiding a lie." Ethan leaned over the console. He saw the unusual signature of the encryption. That's not standard council security. That's Krill-era technology, the kind they used before they were integrated 50 years ago. That tech was supposed to be destroyed. He pulled a small silver drive from his pocket, the emergency access key, and plugged it into a port. This key was meant to bypass general security, but even it struggled with the encrypted block. "It needs a second factor," Ethan muttered. "Something organic. A key from a new species." "Wait," Chloe said, thinking fast. "The Council's own setup. They use a biometric key for proof of identity when a new species signs the initial treaty. It's probably a copy of the human genome key we gave them 10 years ago." They worked together for the next hour, using Ethan's access and Chloe's knowledge of data structures. They didn't break the lock. They tricked it into thinking they were accessing it from a high-ranking council server. Finally, the file opened. What they saw was not a single document, but a detailed, living 10-year plan. It was called the New Species Integration and Resource Allocation Blueprint. It was a cold, detailed map for destroying a developing species' independence without firing a shot. The plan was broken into steps, exactly matching the 10 years of Earth's membership. Years 1 to 3, technological suppression. Provide non-critical, safe-looking alien technology that slowly makes the new species dependent on Council systems for power, data, and defense. This was why Earth's ships relied on Council jump drive designs. Years 4 to 7, resource transfer. Use the new trade agreements to systematically move vast amounts of vital raw materials, rare earth minerals, water, and even high-quality breathable air off the planet under the guise of shared infrastructure projects. This explained the slow, unexplained shortages happening back home. Years 8 to 10. Forced servitude setup. Create economic and social conditions that lead to political unrest and dependence. The final stage was simple. When the species was weak, introduce council peacekeepers who would take control of all world governments, turning the population into a cheap labor force for the council's main projects. Chloe leaned back, her chair scraping on the floor. Her face was pale. It was never about partnership. She whispered, "It was a farm. A high-tech farm, and we're the harvest." Ethan looked at the last entry on the timeline. The final subservience protocols were set to activate in less than 6 months. They had been sleeping for a decade, while the Council slowly poisoned their world's independence. The golden cage of Galactic Council membership was about to slam shut. They had to move, and they had to move now. Earth was walking into a trap, and only 2 people on a distant space station knew the truth. They had to warn them all. The silence in the small data lab was heavier than space itself. Chloe and Ethan stared at the screen, which still showed the cold, technical language of the Council's 10-year plan. They did not need to speak to know what came next. They were no longer diplomats. They were targets. 6 months until the trap snaps shut, Ethan said, his voice flat. He quickly began deleting every trace of their work from the Nova's computer system. He wiped the access logs, scrambled the file signatures, and then activated a decoy virus to make the archives look like a normal system error. Chloe was already copying the entire deception blueprint onto a small, heavily encrypted storage chip. This chip was meant for storing personal memories, not the downfall of a galactic empire. "It's too much data to send in one go," she said. "We need a big antenna and an unmonitored channel. If we send this to Earth, the Council will see it coming 1,000,000 miles away and stop it." Ethan nodded, already pulling on his simple security jacket over his uniform. "Going back to Earth is too slow anyway. It would take weeks. By the time we arrive, they might be waiting to arrest us." Their goal changed immediately. They could not save Earth by running to it. They had to save Earth by sending the truth from the farthest possible place. They needed to find a powerful, hidden broadcast station and make the file public right now. The whole galaxy had to know what the Council was doing before it was too late. "We need a ship, and we need to leave the Nova right now," Ethan said. "The Council watches every official ship leaving this station. We need something small, fast, and completely off the books." Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn, non-Council communication device. He sent a single coded message. "Need fast runner, no papers, Dock 7, payment on delivery." His contact was a small, 3-eyed alien named Xylo, who worked in the station's lower maintenance levels and was known for selling or borrowing almost anything. 5 minutes later, Xylo sent back a single word. "Done. Ask for the Dust Devil." They left the data lab and moved quickly through the silent, highly polished corridors of the diplomatic sector. This part of Xylo's Prime was beautiful, with high curved ceilings and soft alien light. It was a golden cage, and they were finally seeing the bars. As they reached the turbolift, an official Council announcement came over the station's public address system. The voice was calm and smooth, but the words chilled them. "Attention to all personnel in Diplomatic Sector 4. A non-critical compliance audit is now in effect. All internal doors are locked, and all personnel must remain in place until the audit is complete." The soft golden lights of the corridor flashed once and turned a cold, warning blue. "They know," Chloe breathed, pulling her hood up. "They know someone broke the lock. They're locking down the whole sector." "It's a search party, not an audit," Ethan said, grabbing her arm. "We take the maintenance shafts, faster." They found a hidden panel and dropped into the dark, greasy shafts that ran like veins beneath the station's skin. The air here smelled of hot metal and ozone, a welcome change from the clean, deceptive air above. They crawled and climbed for nearly an hour, navigating by an old map Ethan had kept. When they finally reached Dock 7, it was a mess of cargo containers and rough transport ships. Tucked away in a dark corner was the Dust Devil. It was tiny and looked like a metal shoe that had been kicked across a highway. Its paint was peeling, and one engine nozzle was clearly a different model than the other. Xylo was waiting, his 3 eyes blinking nervously. "It's ugly, but it flies fast and it has good engine shielding," he squeaked, handing Ethan the key card. "You were followed. A small council drone is 2 sectors over, coming this way." "We don't have time," Ethan said, sliding the agreed-upon payment chip into Xylo's palm. "Thank you. Now go." Chloe and Ethan scrambled inside the Dust Devil. The cockpit was cramped and smelled like old oil and fear. Chloe strapped in, feeling the tight squeeze. Ethan slammed the hatch shut and fired the engines. The ship shook like a dog shedding water. He punched the launch sequence. The small ship rattled down the launch tube. Just as they cleared the dock, Chloe shouted, "Ethan, look!" Outside the viewport was a small, sleek council surveillance drone, barely the size of a human car, was moving fast to intercept them. It was not firing, but its communication laser was locked onto the Dust Devil's hull. They were being tagged and tracked. "I can't let them follow us," Ethan said, his face hard. He ignored the controls that would fly the ship, but instead focused on the ship's small weapons panel. "We destroy the drone. That confirms we're hostile, but it buys us minutes." He fired the Dust Devil's rusty plasma cannon. The single blast was small, but precise. The surveillance drone burst into 1,000 pieces of burning metal. The council sensors now knew 2 things. The data was stolen, and the thieves were willing to fight. Ethan spun the Dust Devil hard, engaging the low-powered jump drive. The stars stretched into lines of blue and white, and they vanished from Xylo's prime. They jumped once, twice, 3 times, going to random, empty points in the surrounding space, trying to scatter their trail. Finally, Ethan slowed the ship down in the dead black of an uncharted system. "What now?" Chloe asked, the fears still making her voice tremble. Ethan ran a new set of long-range sensor scans. "We need a signal boost, someone who won't ask questions and has powerful gear." He thought of the one person he could trust who lived completely outside the council's influence. "I know an engineer. His name's Lucas. He runs an illegal relay station near the Fringe. It's the only place we can broadcast the truth and be sure everyone hears it." The Dust Devil was still running, but the jump drive was complaining loudly. Ethan nursed the small ship through the darkness between star systems. After 3 days of flying through empty space, they found their target. A massive, ugly collection of metal scraps stuck to a spinning asteroid. It was an old mining platform, now used as an illegal hub for data traffic and spare parts. This was Lucas's home. Ethan brought the Dust Devil in for a rough landing near the main tower, a tower that was clearly an illegally modified broadcast antenna. A man was waiting for them on the landing deck. He was thin, wearing stained work overalls, and his hair was tied back with a piece of wire. This was Lucas. He looked nervous but ready. "You brought trouble with you, Ethan," Lucas said, not bothering with a greeting. "The council patrols have been asking questions about a fast-moving speck of junk. I told them it was a comet." "It's more than trouble, Lucas," Ethan said, quickly pulling the data chip from his jacket. "It's the truth, and it will save us all. We need your antenna. We need to broadcast the biggest file in history to every known corner of the galaxy, right now." Lucas led them inside the control room. It was messy, hot, and full of blinking, unauthorized machinery. Wires ran everywhere like metal vines. Lucas's broadcast dish was huge, taking up the entire end of the station, clearly capable of sending a signal across thousands of light years. Chloe plugged the encrypted chip into Lucas's main terminal. The raw data filled the screen. It was overwhelming. Thousands of pages of deceit, contracts, and scheduled acts of betrayal. "The data is too big," Chloe explained, pointing to the screen. "If we just send this, most systems will throw it out as junk or a mistake. They won't believe it. It needs to be simple, fast, and impossible to deny." Lucas scratched his chin, thinking. "We have to turn this war into a single punch. It has to hit every language and every belief system at the same time." "Proof is the punch," Ethan said. "The council lied to everyone about how they integrated the Krill Imperium 50 years ago. That old Krill encryption we saw in the file in Part 1, that's the key. If we package the human blueprint with the Krill suppression data, they will see the same trick being played on them. They will know it's real." Chloe worked fast, pulling the crucial documents from the encrypted chip.
She used Lucas's translation tools, a set of powerful, illegal programs, to make sure the most important facts were ready to be heard in dozens of universal languages, from simple binary code to complex alien dialects. Lucas, meanwhile, began preparing the antenna. He rerouted power from the station's life support and mining equipment to the giant dish. The station groaned as the massive energy drain began. "I only get one shot at this," Lucas yelled, over the noise of the charging power core. "The moment I send this signal, they will see the energy spike. The Council jamming ships are probably already halfway here." Chloe finished her work. She had pulled out the most damning evidence, a timeline showing the Council's planned resource theft from over 30 species and the detailed steps for turning humans into a slave race in 6 months. She combined this with the Krill evidence, but the final message was what mattered most. It had to be a warning that cut through all the technical data. The core of the message can't be a diplomatic note. It has to be a countdown, a simple, visible number showing when the Council's final trap snaps shut for all of us. She programmed a simple, terrifying graphic into the message, a digital clock showing the exact time the forced servitude protocols would begin across the galaxy. It was a digital timer, flashing a stark, red warning: run. Ethan stood next to the main transmitter console, his hand ready to press the final button. Lucas finished the power charge. The giant dish outside was humming, glowing with a dangerous blue light. 3 seconds. Lucas counted down, his voice tense. "The signal is charged. Get ready to run." "Send the signal, Lucas," Ethan ordered. Lucas slammed his fist down on the transmit key. The asteroid station shook violently. Outside, the great dish blasted a wave of pure, concentrated energy into the darkness. The signal, containing the galaxy's biggest secret and the flashing red countdown, was racing away at speeds faster than light, heading for every corner of the charted and uncharted universe. In the control room, a moment of deep silence followed. They had done it. The silence was immediately broken. The red lights on Lucas's status board exploded. A loud, screaming alarm filled the small room. "Jamming," Lucas shouted, pointing to the screen. "A massive wave! They're hitting us with everything they have. They saw the energy spike, and they're trying to smother the broadcast before it reaches the outer systems." But the damage was done. Chloe watched the broadcast status indicator. The message had been sent. The initial wave of data was already past the Council's nearby sensor networks. It was spreading like a virus of truth. "It's out," Chloe said, relief and fear mixing in her voice. "Now we run for Earth." Ethan grabbed her arm. "The Council knows we're here, and they know what we sent. They won't send a patrol. They'll send a fleet." They quickly gathered their gear, leaving the control room lights flashing red, and ran back to the battered Dust Devil. Their warning had been heard, and now the war was officially beginning.
The Dust Devil was no warship, but it was fast. Ethan drove the small freighter hard through a series of short, quick jumps. Every time they stopped, Chloe scanned for signs of Council ships. They were hiding in the empty, dark patches of space that the Council usually ignored. They knew that Xylos Prime had launched a massive search, but the Council was not prepared for a long chase. Their diplomatic ships were not built for speed or fighting. After a full day of running, they finally felt safe enough to stop and check the news. Chloe fired up a heavily filtered long-range receiver. The data flow coming in was chaos. "It worked, Ethan," Chloe whispered, pointing to the screen. "The galaxy is on fire. Our warning is everywhere." The simple, terrifying message, the detailed plans for theft, the Krill evidence, and the flashing red run timer had hit every main system in the charted galaxy. Other species, who were Council members, species that had been trusting and peaceful, were suddenly seeing their own trade deals in a new light. They were seeing the same 10-year plan that had been used on Earth. Fear was turning into loud, angry confusion. But the Council did not waste time being confused. They acted instantly. The moment the signal went out, the Council stopped pretending to be friends. Their full military fleet,
which had been hiding in deep space for safety patrols, moved to surround Earth. Meanwhile, back at the center of the trap, General Alex was sitting in a dark war room, deep under the surface of the planet. He was the head of Earth's defense forces, a man who believed in strength and preparation. He looked at the main screen where a dozen ships from the Council's main fleet, ships that were supposed to be friendly, were closing in on Earth's orbit. "They are here," General Alex said to his nervous officers, "and they are not here to talk." They knew the moment the broadcast went out. The Council ships were huge, silent, and covered in heavy plating. They did not fire, but they positioned themselves in a tight, massive circle, completely blocking Earth from the rest of the universe. It was a perfect, crushing blockade. No ship could leave, and no friendly signal could get in. Then came the second stage of the Council's attack. From the lead alien warships, massive energy projectors activated. They were not weapons, but building tools. In just a few hours, they wove an invisible, shimmering layer of energy around the entire planet. It was a containment shield, designed to keep all of humanity inside its home system. "They've sealed us in," General Alex said, watching the orbital display. "They don't need to bomb us. They just need to wait for the final protocol to take effect. We are isolated and alone." General Alex gave the orders. All Earth military units were put on high alert. Ships that had been parked for years were rushed back into service. These were old human ships, built with simple, solid technology, not the complex Council-dependent tech Chloe and Ethan had studied. They were slow and weak against the new alien warships, but they were all Earth had. Across Earth, the population heard the news. The Council's calm, smooth voices, which had been on every channel for 10 years, were replaced by a cold, angry message. The Council declared that Earth was now a rogue world, and that Chloe and Ethan were dangerous criminals. They demanded that all humans surrender immediately. The reaction was not fear, but a surge of hot, angry pride. Humans looked at the Council's 10 years of friendly lies and felt a boiling rage. They were not going to be slaves. They were going to fight. Back on the Dust Devil, far from the blockade, Ethan watched the news feed showing Earth surrounded by cold alien steel. He saw the shimmering prison shield. "We warned them, Chloe, but we also put a target on our home." Chloe shook her head. "No, we gave them a fighting chance. If we had waited 6 months, it would have been too late. Now, at least they know how to fight back. They know the enemy's whole plan." They were trapped outside the blockade, unable to reach home. But the Dust Devil was still running, and the stolen data chip was still safe. They had one last job: to make sure the other species that had received the warning, the species the Council had also planned to trick, knew exactly where to aim their fire. Ethan looked at the map. He saw the distant star systems that made up the Krill Imperium, the species the Council claimed to have integrated long ago. The Krill were fierce fighters, and they had every reason to hate the Council's lies. The warning had gone to them too. "We can't go home," Ethan decided, "but we can go to our new friends. We need to find the Krill. We need to tell them to run at the Council, not away from them."
The journey to the Krill Imperium was the riskiest one yet. The Krill were known for two things: their fierce fighting spirit and their deep distrust of anyone from the Council's sphere of influence. To the Krill, all humans were simply Council pets. Ethan and Chloe were flying straight into the territory of the galaxy's biggest and most dangerous fighting force. "We have to make them listen to the data," Chloe said, gripping the armrests of the Dust Devil's chair. "The proof that the Council was planning to turn them into slaves decades ago is in the file. That's the only language they will understand." After days of flying, the Dust Devil entered the Krill border space. It was not a tidy, ordered space like the Council's. It was a wild, green-lit zone of massive, organic-looking structures. Almost immediately, 3 warships shaped like giant, sharp insects appeared on the screen. They were enormous, and they made the Dust Devil look like a tiny stone. A warning message, raw and aggressive, filled the speakers. It was in a complex Krill dialect, but the small ship's computer translated it instantly. "Identify yourself. Prepare to be destroyed." Ethan kept his hand steady on the controls. "No time for talking. Lucas gave us the old Krill handshake protocol. Send it now, Chloe." Chloe quickly sent a coded burst of data, a small piece of the file showing the old Krill deception protocols. It was a fragment of the Council's 10-year plan that proved the Council lied about Krill integration 50 years ago. For a terrifying moment, the Krill ships stayed silent. Then the lead ship sent a single word back: "Wait." A large Krill boarding party soon entered the Dust Devil. They were tall, armored warriors, looking down on the 2 tired humans. The lead Krill, whose name was Vex, held a heavy weapon aimed at Ethan's head. "You sent the truth," Vex stated, his voice a low, rumbling sound. "The signal you sent has reached every ship in our command. You speak of the Great Deception. Why? You are a Council species." "We are free," Ethan countered, meeting Vex's stare. "The Council trapped us too. They are surrounding our world, Earth, right now. We warned you because they will come for you next. We share a common enemy." Chloe opened the data file on a small screen and pushed it toward Vex. It showed the Council's plan for the Krill right next to the Council's plan for humanity. "It's the same blueprint. They plan to crush us all. The only way out is to fight them now, before their final clock runs out." Vex studied the screen. The Krill respected simple logic and pure evidence. The data was undeniable. The human warning had saved their future. "Your warning came just in time," Vex decided, lowering his weapon. "We do not run, human. We fight. But we will not fight alone." Vex immediately broadcast a message of his own to the other species who had received the strange human warning. The message was simple. "The humans speak the truth. Join us at the human homeworld. We strike the head of the snake." Within hours, the vast Krill fleet, joined by ships from dozens of other species who were tired of the Council's false peace, gathered in a massive war formation. This was not a diplomatic fleet, it was a crusade of the betrayed. The final battle took place near Earth's sun. General Alex and the human defense fleet were already fighting the Council blockade. The human ships were small and outdated, but the soldiers were fighting with the rage of people protecting their home. They were using every trick, every unexpected maneuver to punch holes in the Council's tight formation. The Council ships were powerful, but they were slow to react, having never expected real resistance. Suddenly, the orbital defenses of Earth saw a massive spike in energy signatures, not from the Council, but from the far side of the system. "General Alex, incoming contacts, thousands of them, Krill ships, they are attacking the Council's flank," an officer screamed. The Krill fleet, led by Vex, hit the Council blockade with brutal force. Their massive, organic warships tore through the Council's formation like knives through paper. The Council's cold, ordered battle lines turned into screaming chaos. The Krill ships focused on the energy projectors that were keeping the containment shield around Earth active. The Krill were fighting for revenge, and the humans were fighting for survival. Together, they were a perfect, unstoppable storm. On the bridge of his lead ship, General Alex watched the chaos. He saw the red, shimmering lights of the Krill energy weapons tearing apart the Council's most powerful vessels. He saw the containment shield around Earth flicker and fail as the power projectors were destroyed. "They listened to the warning," General Alex said, a feeling of hope he hadn't felt in 10 years surging through him. "We are no longer isolated." Ethan and Chloe, watching from the edge of the battle zone, saw the shimmer around their homeworld vanish. Earth was free. The Council fleet, now surrounded, surprised, and outmatched, was breaking. Some of the Council ships began to turn and run, realizing their deception had failed and that the game was over. The human warning, meant only to tell people to flee, had become the rallying cry for the largest rebellion the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had been deceived, but in their simple act of honesty, they had shown the rest of the galaxy that the greatest weapon was not the largest ship, but the truth. The long, hard fight for true freedom had only begun, but the first battle had been won.